Well, hello, everybody. It is your friend Damian Howard here, your premier social and emotional learning coach, for another splendid opportunity for us to discuss social and emotional learning and how it can be helpful, how it could ultimately even be transformative as it pertains to you and your parenting and works that you all are doing with young people in your school environments as well. As always, I am so grateful and thankful for these monthly opportunities that we get to have our adult social and emotional learning webinar for us to discuss exactly how can we lean into the monthly themes, right? In a way that affords us an opportunity to be better, in a way that affords us an opportunity to have a renewed perspective, in a way, hear this part, that affords us as a community to focus on what it is that we can do and how we can develop as leaders to support those around us. You all, as always, you know it doesn't take much for me. I'm super excited, elated, overjoyed based on the opportunity that we have today to learn from one of my good friends, Mark O'Halloran, who I'm going to introduce. Actually, I'm going to have him to introduce himself here in a moment. And I see people are already hitting the chat. Thank you all for doing that. You all know me. I need engagement. I thrive when we come to this space willing and ready to engage with each other. So either you are commenting here in the chat. I see Cynthia. Thank you for coming in and saying hello. And or we are on my personal page. I like to make sure that these webinars are that everybody is afforded an opportunity to watch these webinars and share them. But of course, we are also in the Champions Village, where we focus every single week, sometimes every single day, on adult social and emotional learning. The theme for this month, you all, let's go back for a second, is learn to love yourself. I hope that you all are growing. I hope that you all are being super reflective as it pertains to what it looks like to lean into that theme. One of my partners from Together Chicago, one of our sponsor organizations, is here with us today. I want to also remind everybody that two of our other sponsors are Willow Creek Church, the Chicago campus, and also Clever Characters. Our mission that drives this work that we do here as champions, is helping each other, our parents and our educators, to reduce our stress to increase the success of our children. That is why we're here. How can we embrace tools? How can we grow our toolboxes in ways that affords us an opportunity to decrease our personal stress, once more get that renewed perspective, grow our leadership capacity and ability to support our children? Ultimately, we believe that this is the work. More people equipped, empowered with this social and emotional learning direction that show up as mentor figures in the lives of our kids, that this is the work that has the ability to bring reform and positive impact to schools across the nation. So look at this vision here. This whole empowerment piece that we're doing, we believe will ultimately be a disruption or cause a disruption, bring about reform to the entire education system. I love to give a sense of direction for where it is that we're going. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the chat. Get ready to engage. I'm telling you all, tonight's session is going to be so applicable. Tonight's session is going to give you so many great resources to help you immediately go apply these things to your life so that you can experience greater freedom, particularly with your finances. I'm excited for what's to come tonight. All right, so I'm going to allow our guest to introduce himself in a moment here. We're going to have closing remarks at the end, and we are going to be done with our webinar. I love popping this slide up on the screen every time we have a webinar, because this slide reflects the fact that we have parent champions across the city of Chicago, school champions across the city of Chicago, and I don't even have the 52 interns that we have represented in our work here in the city and beyond here on the screen, because it'd just be too much. It'd be overwhelming. But these champions are literally pushing into schools to make sure that more people are aware of what social and emotional learning is all about. More people are pushing into schools to support students as mentor figures, to bring about the disruption and the type of change that we believe can hit our education system. So with that, you all, I am going to slide to the side in a moment here. My friend Mark, if you can go ahead and join us in this space. It's amazing to have you here, Mark. How are you today?
Hey, Damien, good evening. Great to see you. And it's great to be here with your teams.
Absolutely. So, Mark, what I will tell you is that we absolutely have some participants who are here with us in the Zoom space. And we definitely have some people who are watching live and or who would check this via playback on social media. So I just really appreciate the question that you asked me coming in, which shows me that you have a willingness and desire to engage with our audience. So audience members, if you all have questions or comments as you hear Mark share certain things, please be prepared to ask those questions and engage in a way that is going to be helpful for you tonight. Hey, I almost forgot, but I remembered. Nancy, if you have the ability to actually show yourself and come in and greet our people today, that would be amazing.
Hi, everybody. Hola a todos. I think I got the light on. Estamos aquí para el webinar y vamos a presentar con Mark O'Halloran. Did I say that
Perfecto,
correctly?
sí.
Y ahorita él es el jefe grande de For Together Chicago, y entonces vamos a escuchar un poco. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for saying hi. And I see I have my little one here needing my attention. Y aquí está el niño que nomás quiere atención. Pero aquí vamos a estar hoy y ahora vamos a dejar a Mark que puede compartir una buena información interesante, y luego si tienen preguntas yo voy a andar traduciendo en el chat, pero si tienen preguntas me lo pueden poner ahí.
As always, Nancy, just so very grateful and thankful for your presence here with us in this space. We want to make sure that for our Spanish speakers that desire for either a bilingual option and or to engage personally with Nancy, she's always here to help and support us with translation support. So Nancy, just very thankful for you. So I wanted to call that out. Mark, hey, I want to get off of the screen for a second and just have you, Mark, to introduce yourself to our group here this evening.
Damien, thank you so much. It's just great to be here. As Damien said, I am the Chief Financial Officer of Together Chicago. My background is starting and running manufacturing businesses. But for the last 5 years, I've been able to help lead Together Chicago's programs. And some of those programs involve violence reduction, education, legal assistance and advocacy, and economic development. Economic development is one of the categories that Together Chicago takes very seriously, supporting the economic growth, the job growth, job opportunities that are available in our communities in Chicago. I'll just back up a bit personally. I am one of 8 children raised in a big family, stay-at-home mom, a working dad, and they really stressed education and preparing ourselves for our future. And that really will be a theme that I will be sharing here tonight with you all. Damien asked me, some of these fundamental questions of how do I love myself, even in terms of financial management and financial stewardship. And I'll tell you, these ideas, these foundational building blocks have been encouraged in my life from my earliest recollections by a hardworking dad, a stay-at-home mom, and a whole bunch of kids running around the neighborhood. So I'll be sharing some of that, as well as in college, I was able to go back to grad school. I have my Master's of Business Administration from the University of Chicago here on the South Side. And again, I've spent my life writing business plans, studying markets, developing financial forecasts, understanding who's the competition and how do we, with our business, succeed at satisfying our customers and our clients in a way that encourages them to come back and use our services or buy our products again in the future. My wife and I have 6 children by adoption, and the youngest is now 26, the oldest are 32. a bunch of girls and a couple of boys. And that has been one of the most challenging and rewarding things of our lives. So I'll pause there. I'll pause there with my introduction.
You know, Mark, this is the Champions Village, a webinar that we have in a space that we've created primarily for parents. And what I have come to realize is if I am going to be blessed and afforded the opportunity every month to interview amazing people like you, Mark, that I have to do a better job of pausing when we need to pause and taking a deeper dive into things that stand out in my mind and or questions that our audience might have. So we would love to hear a little bit more about you as a parent. You shared with us that you've adopted children, which already kind of speaks to us a little bit about your heart. But when you say, you know, that there's been highs and lows, blessings, and then also some parts of parenting that weren't always easy, we would love to hear a little bit more to the extent that you're willing to share. And the reason I asked you to go a little bit deeper into this, Mark, is because we have some parents who can definitely resonate with just that point that you made there. And I just love these opportunities for us to say, hey, yes, we do have an agenda and we do have some things that we're going to get to, but I know we have some parents who can resonate. So I would love to hear more.
Yeah, wow, Damien, thank you so much. My wife and I were married for 10 years, and we very deeply desired to parent, to have children and raise children. And that was not possible for us. It was a heartbreaking situation. It was not anything we ever imagined or anticipated. There was no warning ahead of time. So being very deeply in love and having this deep desire to have children, it was devastating. I will say that we had tremendous support and love from family, from our church family, family and our circle of friends. But unless you have somebody close to you who has experienced the kind of pain or disappointment that you have, people don't know how to comfort or even be a friend to someone who's going through that hardship. So it was one of my sisters, actually, I thank God for her, one of my sisters with a whole pack of kids, who said, Mark, you need to find other couples who have gone through this difficulty and connect with them. And we did. In fact, I see Damien, one of the sponsors here, is Willow. It was Willow who we ended up connecting with, and it was a parent support circle that was just starting up, and it was other couples who desired to have children and who were not able to have them themselves naturally. And it was a life-transforming cohort of couples who were suffering and disappointed. And you know, I've heard many of these of the older generations say, you know, what happens under stress? You know, moms get sad and dads get mad. Well, that's kind of what we found in this group of infertile couples. A lot of devastated, sad wives, and a bunch of kind of angry dads, like, you know, why is this happening to us? You know, we're good people. And so, in any event, that was really, really transformative, being part of that cohort. And I will say this, the step of heading to adoption was not necessarily, you know, an automatic solution. It was something that, in fact, I was not inclined to pursue. I can tell you that my thoughts about adoption at the time were that it was unnatural, that it was incredibly awkward, it was ridiculously expensive, it was invasive of our privacy, and it was built upon brokenness, our brokenness and the child's family of origin's brokenness, and all that sounded like a disaster for me. And my wife, on the other hand, in spite of my prayers that God would change her heart and help her understand like I did, that we should deploy our lives as a childless, happily married couple to serve other parents who are overwhelmed with the responsibilities of parenting. I thought, well, like maybe that's what God has for us. Instead, she signed us up for some seminars. We attended, and I had an epiphany one day joining her in this pursuit of adoption. So parenting has been, it was an awkward and difficult start. It started with pain. And when we adopted our first 4 children, their biological siblings, they came from a background of great trauma. And in the decades that we've been parenting them, and now that they're adults, we have seen that love and nutrition, the love of God, a church family is all extremely helpful, but trauma is devastating. And trauma casts shadows that extend well beyond a child's years. And trauma is something that is very, very difficult to heal from. It takes very particular skills and input and intervention to heal from trauma. And our children, though they are in relatively very good places now compared to where they were, where they would have been, they're still wrestling with the trauma of their early childhood and the disruption, the dislocation that comes from leaving a family of origin and joining our family. So that brought us a lot of very, very, very painful, difficult, long seasons of grief and seasons of challenges with them. And after 6 of them, there was always somebody, it seemed, who was struggling through something. These triggers, Damien, you and I have talked about these things that trigger past traumas. Man, you spend time in bouncing around the world in the course of a day, 8 lives in a household. Somebody's being triggered by something almost every day. So that was very, very difficult. I will say this, and I'll underscore it more in a minute here with regards to finances.
Yeah.
It really helped, I'll speak for myself, it really helped me to evaluate what brings joy, what brings contentment, what brings great satisfaction in life. And going through long seasons of difficulty, we're talking 20 years of challenges, it really helps burn off the dross and refine the gold. It helps strip away the unnecessary, and it helped us to focus on what is necessary and what is good and what is core and what is principle. And I'll say this, that under God, as a Christian couple, I was able to understand in a way that I never would have how this relationship with God, this relationship with my wife, whom I loved, wow, those cost me nothing and are massively satisfying. They're massively delight-giving. And going for a walk with my wife in a forest preserve costs us nothing, but it is tremendously joy-giving and day stabilizing and life-giving. And Damien, you have helped us even as a team, these times, these exercises of dealing with stressors that are coming from every side, stopping and remembering what is valuable and beautiful and good and life-giving, and getting rid of that which is toxic and breathing in that which is nourishing, and doing that in the context of a loving and beautiful relationship has been something that we have learned and practiced over and over and over as parents.
I'm so glad I took that moment to deviate from agenda, and Mark, for you to give us an opportunity to just learn a little more about you and your experience. We feel now so well connected. You all hit that chat. Make sure that you all are asking questions if you can resonate with what I'm saying, or if you have some type of resonance again with what it is that we're talking about right now, but just so very grateful that we took that moment to have that conversation. And thank you for your vulnerability and willingness to go there with the group. I know somebody there was encouraged, somebody there once more was able to connect with what was said. And now that affords us an opportunity to kind of go into some of the things, Mark, that I wanted to talk about on tonight. I want to really raise up this theme that we have for the month of November, which focuses on learn to love yourself. That's the theme for this month. Learn to love yourself. And I'll tell you, Mark, I developed these themes a few years ago, actually, with a team. And every time I get to the month of November and I see that we have this theme, learn to love yourself, I feel like I have to give all of these caveats. One of them being, hey, we realize that you know how to love yourself, but we think there may be some things that are helpful. But every time as I process through why we wanted to name the theme that way, I think that there are some conversations that are that were led to based on the way that that's worded. Learn to love yourself. That yes, we get what it means to love ourselves, but maybe sometimes, and even for some, often, we're not doing those things that we know to do to make sure that we're supporting ourselves, that we're doing those things, Mark, like you said, that bring joy, delight, comfort, fulfillment, even those things that don't cost us anything, that are indicative of us showing and expressing love to self. So I want you to lean into that theme and let us know what comes to mind for you when you think of the theme, learn to love yourself.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Damien. I'll say three things. One, again, as a Christian, one of our commands is to love your neighbor as yourself, right? And as part of the Together Chicago team, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to serve with Damien on this team and to love our neighbors as ourselves. But I find that especially, and I'll add this, I don't know a single person in my life who grew up in some kind of a stress-free, I'm going to use this carefully, abuse-free context. I don't know anyone who's grown up like that. And one of the ways that I have learned to love myself, even in the last decade, 15 years, but I got some practice on it in my 20s, was to not sabotage your future. So many people can say, oh, it's easy to love myself, and it can be kind of an egotistical, get pleasure, get stuff for myself that I think I need today. But that can be done in a toxic and a sabotaging manner that actually sets you up for bad results and bad outcomes in the future. I'll give some examples. Loving myself as a student. Hey, you only go around once, you only live once. I'm going to have fun right now, and I'm going to love myself and not deny myself this pleasure, whatever it would be. Are you kidding me? That can be a horribly sabotaging practice of ruining my future by destroying opportunities today to build for that future. So a couple of things. One, I think, yes, Damien, learning to love ourselves, that is not a given if we have had any kind of abuse or trauma in our backgrounds. We can be self-destructive and self-sabotaging. But second, I'll say this on a positive note, learning to invest in ourselves, invest for our futures. Those are two things that come immediately to my mind. With regards to not sabotaging yourself, I'll include in that managing downside risk. What are those things that can be either in a huge scale catastrophically damaging. But what are those things, even on a smaller scale, that cause me downside risk and downside outcomes? Eliminating those from my life whenever possible, or if I become aware of them, stripping them out of my life. But the flip side of that coin really is investing in myself and investing in my future. Now, if we're talking to a bunch of educators, hopefully this is a total no-brainer. I need to be preparing for what is ahead. And man, what is ahead are an awful lot of challenges. How do I prepare for what is ahead? Education is going to be immensely important. And I will just add, what kind of education? What kind of education am I affording myself for what is ahead? And I'm not talking about some kind of awesome school, although that can be helpful. I'm talking about learning from those who have done, from those who have failed, from those who have regrouped and done some more. That would be my primary focus on education. And in our culture, we have lost so much of the habit and the muscle memory of learning from those who have done and failed and regrouped and done some more. The folks who do that the most, who have done that the most, probably are going to be a lot older than us. But if we can tap the wisdom of those who are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, oh my word, there is so much to learn sitting at their feet and being educated from their mistakes, their pivot points. How did they deal with failure and disappointment? How did they learn to stop sabotaging their life? How did they learn to invest in their futures? That's the kind of education that I think we have stopped pursuing as communities, and that I really try to encourage myself to continue doing, and those that I love to do more.
You know, I really appreciate how you are really affirming key principles that we always share here in the Champions Village. One of them, mentorship. And everything we talk about here, yes, is for the sake of our kids being able to have greater success academically in all of life. But every single thing we talk about here is for the sake of us also embracing these things for our own personal development as well. So I love how you're not only calling out mentorship, but in a more general sense, even saying that we need community, we need each other. And earlier it sounded like you were even saying that community is, and was for you, Mark, the primary way that you were able to process through different hurt that you experienced in your life. So I just really want to just call those things out, because I think that that really, truly, and deeply affirms what we're trying to do here in the Champions Village. So thank you for that. Mark, I'm at the particular point in this conversation where, again, I just literally want to remove myself off of this screen and allow you, with whatever you prepare, to talk to us today about financial stewardship, to talk to us about financial preparedness, to talk to us as adults, parents, and educators. Give us some insights as far as how we can stop the bleeding, stop sabotaging, start investing. So again, I just want to get out of the way. I typically like to do a lot of Q&A, but I feel, and I have a hunch, that we don't need to have a lot of back and forth right now. We just kind of need to lean in and listen to whatever it is that's on your heart to share with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Damian. You know, again, I will say this. I'm going to just share from our lives and our experience, and I don't have a list of prescriptions that if you follow this, you will have amazing success. But I'm going to share with you these things that my wife and I learned as a married couple, as adults, as parents, and what has really helped us to get to a point of financial freedom, financial sustenance, and financial health. So this point of not sabotaging our futures, I would say, number one, I'm going to need financial resources in the future to deal with unexpected costs. The only way I will be able to handle those unexpected significant costs that come in the future is by saving some of the money I'm earning today and squirreling it away so that it's available at that future time. So number one, I hope this is encouraging. I hope this doesn't sound like, oh, brother, this is discouraging or unhelpful, but I hope this is encouraging. By denying ourselves some luxuries, some unnecessary expenses, some of these things that don't actually have much enduring satisfaction giving properties, denying ourselves some of those things up front. Let me give some very concrete examples. Housing. Housing is our number one biggest expense as a household. The banks will guide and will limit what couples can borrow, or landlords will limit who can rent in their place based on income as it relates to the cost of the rent or a mortgage. And a rule of thumb that you will hear over and over again is, a third of your gross income, not more, should be spent on housing. And I'll say that's true. If you spend a third of your gross income on housing, you can probably make it work. But if you study the lives of people who have achieved tremendous financial freedom, even when they're not making much money, they put themselves in a housing situation where they're spending 10% of their gross income on housing. Well, that is a tiny number to spend on housing for most households. I have had many people say, there's nothing that we could rent or buy for 10% of our income. There are creative ways to solve that problem. I'll just mention two. One is teaming up with another household. My wife and I spent a number of years, and certainly our earliest years, renting a room from another household, renting a single room. We had shared kitchen privileges, a shared bathroom. It was not a luxury accommodation whatsoever. That allowed us to salt away a tremendous amount of our limited income for future shocks, future expenses that popped up, but also for future investment opportunities. And getting some cash reserves was immensely helpful in preparing us for what was ahead. So housing is the big thing. I'll quickly go through a few more. The eating out expenditure, again, very early in our marriage, we loved eating out and going to restaurants and trying new foods, but we would blow through my entire income of what we were saving by having limited, modest housing on fancy dinners. And, they were good and they were fun, and there were older, richer people doing it all the time. Maybe there were poorer people doing it all the time on credit. I don't know. But that was consuming the rest of our income. My wife and I decided we're going to go to instead groceries and home cooking. Now that takes time and energy, but there's so many stuff, especially now available online, that is resources to teach us how to cook quickly, simply, nutritionally, keeping it simple, keeping it healthy, keeping it tasty. That was something that we started doing very early on, and we have continued that for 3.5 decades of marriage. It's been massive in the money it has allowed us to save for future unexpected shocks, as well as future opportunities to invest. So reducing housing as an expense of income, as well as reducing eating out, are the two biggest things that we have done, and that we have found people who are financially self-sufficient, they do not spend money on housing or eating out until they have a huge nest egg and financial momentum established. So it'd be two things. Second category, besides denying oneself expenditures now so that I'm preparing for the future, the second is guarding against downside risks. I do not sell insurance. I'm not going to recommend an insurance broker, but I will say this: having fundamental core insurance coverage, or something like insurance coverage for those things that cost a fortune, is extremely important. For driving a car, we have people that are close to us who do not have insurance, and they're driving around in cars illegally. These are illegal Americans who are illegally driving cars without insurance. Someone very close to us let their insurance lapse on their car. They were in a terrible accident. The cars were totaled. They owed money on the cars. They are still to this day suffering from a devastated credit score, as well as constant monthly payments to pay off a vehicle that they have not been able to use now for 5 or 6 years. So having core basic insurance to cover your financial risks is smart. I would say buy the least amount of insurance possible, but it has to be sufficient to cover your obligations, so that if you're unable to, the insurance steps in and covers it in your place. You can Google and research on all the details on how to do that, but I would encourage that. The third is this: invest knowing that you can lose everything. Investing knowing that you can lose everything will safeguard you from stupid investments in things that seem too good to be true. They probably are. Everyone's doing this and they're making tons of money. We should do that too. I would caution you, as I've cautioned myself more now recently, invest with the understanding that you can lose everything in this investment. That is going to cause you to think very hard, research deeply, get counsel, to Damien's point, get mentors who have invested wisely in this category of thing that you want to invest in, so that before you invest, you know what it is you're investing in and what the upside potential is, what the downside potential is. Summarizing, there's no way you will have resources to invest if you're blowing it all now on housing and unnecessary luxuries like excessive eating out. Saving for the future for those investments, man, there is nothing glamorous about it. There's nothing easy about it. My mom and dad, right, raising 8 kids, we did not have extra money. We shared shoes from older to younger. The hand-me-downs is what we called them back then. I was wearing my brother's clothes for years since they were older than me. We did tremendous things to economize as a household, but those things very, very incrementally over decades put my parents in a position to be able to invest in things and assets that did appreciate in their later years, not in their early years. In their early years, they were working and spending as little as possible, saving as much as possible, so that in their later years, it really snowballed into resources that they could deploy on investments that then started working for them. So economizing on expenses now, guarding against downside risks, and then investing extremely judiciously with mentors that help you learn how to invest. These are ways that are the most fundamental ways that people who are financially independent, financially healthy, they practice these every day. There's no magic to them. And it's a lot of hard work, and it's kind of boring most of the time, which brings me back to my first point. If having money and spending money is what is satisfying, man, you're not going to be satisfied. I'm not going to be satisfied much ever. if what is satisfying and what gives life and delight is healthy relationships, non-toxic choices, non-sabotaging of my own life, if that is the kind of life that gives satisfaction, then it doesn't really feel much like denying myself to put off these bigger, luxurious expenditures until I'm decades older than I am today. And instead, it'll just feel like, hey, we are loving ourselves by preparing for our future, investing in our future, avoiding downside risks, and enjoying relationships in the meantime. Those would be some of the most fundamental things I would share for loving myself financially. It's loving myself now so that it's a lot easier to love myself in the future.
Wow, Mark, this has been so power-packed with information, so valuable for myself, for the community. Just very grateful for you and all of the insight that you share with us in those last moments there. Hey, Mark, I'm very interested to hear a little bit more about investing. I know that I am super new to the concept of trying to invest some of my capital and deploy it so that, to your point, a couple of decades from now, I start to see the return of investment that I'm making today. But let's talk to the novice investor. If I am new to this, just like Damien is, and I don't necessarily know what I can invest in, talk to me about how much money I might need to save up. Talk to me about what are those earliest investment opportunities that I might be able to pursue.
Yeah, fabulous, Damien. Investing is it's complicated. I will say this: investing is complicated. I would break it down into a few categories. There's the investment in assets that appreciate. There is an investment in assets or processes that generate income. And there is the investing in time, waiting for better opportunities. So those would be the three that I would talk about. So first of all, investing in assets that appreciate. One of the most fundamental ones that people would talk about would be housing. If I invest in a house and I buy it today for 150,000, and if 10 years from now it's worth 200,000, my asset has appreciated. That's true. And buying a house might be an investment that leads to appreciation and gain. But I would just add, houses break, they need repairs, they need maintenance, they are connected with taxes. And that asset that one invests in a house does not necessarily appreciate above and beyond all of the expenses of maintenance and repairs and taxes that are a burden to it every month and every year that you hold that asset. So I would not, especially these days with what housing costs, I would not include a house in the categories of assets to invest in. For me, that's more of a lifestyle choice. And you should get some really good counsel on how and what house to buy and where and how much to spend and all those things. Instead, in an asset that appreciates in value, I would say would be, say, in the category of stocks, to invest in a company that is investing its profits in itself and in its growth. That buying of that stock would be buying an asset that should appreciate handsomely over years. That's not an asset that's going to spin off dividends and spin off income, that particular type of company. But if that company is making profits and reinvesting those profits in making itself more competitive and more profitable in the marketplace, that company's stock will appreciate. And you holding that asset, that stock, will allow you the gain of the appreciation of its value over time. I'll just back up and say, how do I buy stocks? You do have to open a brokerage account. And there are many that are available virtually. You can do them online. You can open a brokerage account with a broker. Those tend to have much greater fees and commissions associated with them. But again, investing in a stock in a business that does not pay dividends, but that reinvests in itself, that would be a category of an asset that appreciates over time. And again, what kind of a holding time? 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 years, those kinds of timeframes, not 10 or 15 minutes, and then hoping I can sell it quickly and make a gain for tonight for dinner. The second kind of investment would be the investment in an asset or a process that generates income. Those would include investment real estate properties. I'm buying a 3-flat that we rent out, and that will generate rental income that is greater than all of the expenses I have for buying and holding that property, that asset. So buying an investment property that you rent out, that would be a category of an investment that provides income. Another category would be buying the stock of a business that pays dividends. There are companies that specialize in paying dividends rather than investing their profits in themselves. Those tend to be real estate trusts, right? REITs, R-E-I-Ts. Real estate trusts are businesses that are required by law to distribute their profits to their stockholders. Other companies that are not required by law to distribute dividends would be those companies that have a track record of paying out some of their profits every year to their owners of record. Again, these are all things that one can research and learn much more about outside of this webinar. But investing in assets that generate income, that produce income, can be an investment strategy of supplementing your income now with income those generate today. The third thing I mentioned, I'll just mention quickly, is investing in time while you wait for opportunities to invest in. This is something that I think is not talked about enough. People will say, I need to start investing so that I can have assets that appreciate or assets that spin off income. And I might say you could invest in time by holding off while you do more research, while you compare opportunities. Comparing opportunities and learning that once-in-a-lifetime opportunities are usually never once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. All of the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that I've been exposed to in the last 35 years as a financial thinker and investor and business owner have been once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to lose money. Instead, there are opportunities that are chronically available, continuously available to those who have the resources available to invest in them. But if you have blown your savings on some once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that went the wrong way, you no longer have money to invest in something solid that you have subsequently come across. So I will say this, saving that money, having it earn nothing while you are looking for and researching and learning about assets that appreciate or assets and processes that generate income, that can be a valuable, extremely valuable investment strategy. It's the strategy of, I'm not losing money, I'm saving, and I'm looking for opportunities.
No, Mark, very helpful, very helpful. And I see in our chats here and Zoom and also on the Facebook page that there are people who got value, particularly from you, Mark, helping us to understand the different investment opportunities that are out there for us. And I just love the way, Mark, that you're breaking this down tonight, because you're almost making it feel and seem like it's easy, at least easier to think about, easier for us to think about, one, getting rid of and eliminating some of those self-sabotaging behaviors that don't afford us the opportunity to really work towards having that extra capital, having those additional resources to invest when there's a new opportunity. Now, when you start talking about rates, and I saw Cynthia commenting on that, and some of the other things, and getting an investment account, right? Those are some things that certain people can start to feel like, okay, I don't know how to do that. You know, we could start just feeling, you know, apprehensive and not even want to take steps ahead. But I love how you said, hey, you know, we can go and do our research. We can Google certain things. We can go on YouTube. That's what I had to do when I wanted to first start investing in stock. Now I'm actually investing into some courses and classes that are teaching me these things, but I had to start where I was at that particular time. I had to start with what capital that I can deploy and that I can use to actually get an education on these things. Let's call that out, educating ourselves on the things that we want to do, utilizing, again, all of the free resources that we have on the World Wide Web is just such a powerful opportunity that everybody has an opportunity to engage in right now. So yeah, just super dope stuff that we talked through today. Hey, Mark, we are trekking towards the end of our time today. We actually spent a few more minutes with this interview, with this conversation. And I knew we were going to do that because I already knew that there was going to be massive value that you had for our community today. So I want to offer up this last opportunity, Mark, before you leave this space on this evening, for you to just share out any last thought, any last impression, maybe that was made today and or that you prepared before coming to this space that you will want to share with our Champions Village.
Yeah, thank you so much, Damien. My encouragement really would be to underscore what Damien just highlighted for us. Within community, with mentors, we can learn to love ourselves. We can learn to stop sabotaging our futures. We can learn to invest in ourselves. We can learn the practical, technical mechanics of saving and investing in one type of asset or another type of asset. I would encourage, in the context of community, finding mentors, finding trusted allies, finding cohorts that I can learn with and march forward with. These have been some of the most stabilizing factors in my financial development, rather than being an isolated independent investor or an isolated independent saver. Doing these things in a cohort, whether it's an official cohort or it's a pack of friends or it's a group of friends from church, but whatever it would be, being part of a team that watches each other, that guards each other's backs, that learns together, that shares information freely. This has been the most valuable thing in my financial development as an investor, as a business owner, as a business seller, as an employee. These are things that are it's so much easier to learn on a team than to try to learn all by myself.
Mark, if any of our champions wanted to connect with you offline, learn a little bit more about anything that you shared today, is there an email or some type of social media handle whereby we can engage with you more intimately following this time together?
Yes, absolutely. You can reach me at our Together Chicago handle, mark.o'halloran, just as it's spelled there on the screen, mark.o'halloran@togetherchicago.com. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'll see me there with Together Chicago. And if you want to connect with me, send me a note and say, Mark, I heard you here. I'm a friend of Damien's, whatever it is. Tell me why it'll be beneficial for you to connect with me, and I'll respond.
Mark, thank you so much for your time with us tonight. As I already stated, we deeply benefited from, for some, those reminders that you helped us with, but then for some, new insight that you share with us on this evening. So I'm sure you and I probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, oh no, we got Thanksgiving. By next week, you and I will be in touch. And again, just super thankful to serve alongside you as a Together Chicago team member. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Damian.
All right, good night.
Yeah.
All right, you all. So before we get out of here, you all know that I always have to just remind one last time us of why we are here and just kind of share a little tidbit that aligns with our theme for this month. Let's just be reminded again, when we start talking about people, particularly learning to love themselves, eliminating self-sabotaging behaviors. And I love you all. Let's just call this out. Mark, as a white man, said, hey, y'all, like, listen, like these are some things that I had to work through. You know, sometimes certain people groups based on race, ethnicity, whatever it is, might feel like other folks don't understand us. They won't understand what it means to have limited resources. This is a man who came from limited resources, and he saw his family, his parents grind it out, save, and ultimately invest. Hey, as an encouragement for all of us that we can do it too. Imagine if we have more parents, more families doing that, and now with less stress on their lives, what impact that's going to make to the education system. That is indeed, friends, family, village, why we do this work. I just want to call out this statement really quickly as we are trekking towards the end of our time. Sometimes we must struggle against incredible obstacles. It can feel like they are impossible to overcome. Amazingly, we often end up finding that we have the strength to break through the barriers we face. I got that straight from our course for this month that's focusing on us learning to love ourselves. You all, it is going to be a struggle. It is going to be a challenge. We got to remember what Mark shared with us tonight. It's through those challenges that we are built into the people that are having now a renewed perspective, that have more strength, more tenacity to actually go out and do some of the things that we learned about tonight. So I just want to encourage the village on our way out of here tonight that, hey, you all, now is a time, a splendid and amazing time for us to not make excuses about our age, about what we don't have, about what our historical narrative and our story has limited us to be or to not be, right? Like, it's all of these things that we can throw out, all of these things that we can say as far as why we continue to sabotage ourselves. And I just tell you, there's an amazing opportunity that we each have right now to make a commitment, to have a resolve, to say that this is the day that I'm going to start my journey of eliminating self-sabotaging behaviors, of creating the type of future that I deserve, that my family deserves, that my kids deserve, that my community deserves. So with that, you all, we are going to sign out. I know that there were some amazing things shared tonight that were helpful for this entire village, this entire community. Make sure that you all are engaging online in the space. You certainly have an opportunity to do that. And before we go, we just want to hear from Nancy one last time. Nancy, if there are some things that stood out to you that you want to make sure that you express in Spanish, please do that as we are leaving this space.
Ya, hola a todos. Nomás voy a repetir un poquito de lo que compartió Mark hoy con nosotros para que tengan esa información. De todos modos, la puse todo en el Facebook page y lo pueden encontrar también. 3 cosas donde dice dónde podemos invertir, y si uno es nuevo en inversiones, las 3 cosas fue invertir en activos que se aprecian. Por ejemplo, la vivienda, la casa, ¿verdad? Uno siempre piensa que la casa se aprecia bastante. Y sí, pero lo que pasa es que también tenemos muchos gastos en mantener esa casa. Entonces, es mejor invertir en esas cosas que vamos a beneficiar y que dé la ganancia a lo largo del tiempo, sin nosotros tener que poner tanto dinero. Luego también invertir en el proceso. Por ejemplo, comprar un ingreso de de alguien que se proporcione a sus ingresos superiores al dinero que necesitamos pagar. Por ejemplo, si compramos una casa que podemos rentar, esa renta debe de ser las cosas financieras más grande que lo que nosotros tenemos que pagar del mortgage, ¿verdad? Otra oportunidad es invertir en el tiempo. Por ejemplo, mejor esperar tiempo para poder hacer y aprender sobre oportunidades de inversión, de en vez de luego vamos a invertir en algo que a lo mejor parece como que la oportunidad es muy buena para creer que es cierta, ¿verdad? Porque normalmente si es una oportunidad que pasa una vez a la vida, entonces típicamente aquellas en las que se pierden el dinero. Entonces es mejor esperar el tiempo para poder hacer una inversión con más información y asegurarnos que es una inversión que no nomás vamos a perder mucho dinero. Y si quieren comunicarse con Mark, allí voy a poner en el chat otra vez cómo se pueden comunicar el correo electrónico y también puede enviar una nota en el LinkedIn. Gracias a todos y buenas noches.
Hey, Nancy, I hope you saw in the chat, Mark, just really calling out how amazing you are. We love you so much here in this village and are so very thankful for everything that you offer to us. Hey, everybody, we are past 7. So if you have to get out of here, please go. I am going to actually stay live because I see that one of our participants here in the Zoom space has his hand raised. So Mr. Leggins, I'm actually going to bring you here as a panelist. If you wanted to go ahead and ask your question live, you will have that opportunity to do so. And wait one moment, Mr. Leggins, while I also make you a co-host, which means if you want to actually show your face and engage that way, you have the ability to do so. Nancy, I just saw you wave. If you have to get out of here, it's so great.
Yes, good night, everybody. Gracias a todos. Thank you, Mark, for sharing your stories. It speaks wonders to me as a mental health counselor. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Nancy. You're amazing.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Feliz Día de las Gracias. Bye-bye.
Bye, Nancy. Mr. Leggins, what's up? You're looking good with those glasses. We just can't hear you. There it is.
I didn't have my hand raised up. I was trying to get into the chat to say great job to Mark. But I did think about when he was talking about foster parent and adopted parent, because you know that's what I am, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And he talked about trauma. I was in the meeting earlier today about trauma with children that's in care. But great job, Mr. Mark. That's all I want to say.
Hey, Mark, Mr. Leggins is actually one of our parent champions from Melody Elementary School on the west side of Chicago. Principal Tiffany Tillman is the amazing principal that leads that school. And I am just super appreciative of Mr. Leggins because he does the work at just a high capacity. Every month, Mark, I'm asking for the parent champions to send me a picture or some type of attendance log that shows that they're engaging other parents with this SEL work that we're doing here in the Champions Village. And Mr. Leggins is always the first one to submit his work every month. So I just wanted to call that out, that Mr. Leggins is one of our amazing parent champions. We actually talked about his journey as a foster parent. And, you know, from my perspective as an educator as well. So thank you, Mr. Leggins, for that comment.
I'm also an adopted parent. I have a 17-year-old adopted at 8 years old that's driving me out the door. But, and he has a lot of trauma. So I understand what Mark was saying.
Absolutely.
Wow, thank you. Bless you, Dexter. Thank you so much.
All right, you all. So we went a little bit over, but I'm glad that we were afforded that opportunity to do so that we can see our friend Dexter Leggins come into this space and add some of his shine and his grace to the Champions Village on this evening. Hey, everybody, you all have an amazing night. Thank you so much for engaging with our work. If you have any questions or comments about the work, make sure that you comment below and we will make sure that we get in touch with you. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.